Welcome back to another episode of A&A. In the last video called Updates, I showed you what we can see is where the differential gear oil, why it was low when we changed it, because our front pinion seal is leaking. It's not uncommon, and especially with a car that's 20 years old and it's got as many miles on it as this one does, it's no surprise. So we've looked at the rear, we changed the oil and the cover and all that stuff. You've seen all that. So now, while we've got the drive shaft disconnected, we're going to focus our attention on the front and how to replace that seal. So starting out, you want to make a paint mark, reference mark, because that pinion gear, when it's installed, there's a crush collar inside the differential. It depends on how much play between the ring gear and the pinion gear as to how far they crush that crush collar as they're tightening the nut on the drive shaft side. So we don't want to, we don't want to get it any looser. We don't want to get it any tighter. We want to put it back in the exact same place, because we got to take the nut off. We've got to take that flange off to get to the seal. Then we'll put the flange back on, then we'll drive the nut back on, but we want to get it back in the same place. So if you'll help me today, that's what we'll do. So let's get started. Okay, this is the front of your differential. I've propped the drive shaft up on top of that bracket up there, because really to do, what they normally do is they just pull the drive shaft completely out. But if you pull it out of the transmission on the other end up there, and it will just slide out, you could lose some transmission fluid. So I just got it propped up here, up on top. It should be fine. First thing you do is you get some brake clean, carburetor cleaner, and you clean the nut, the part the nut goes on to, and this flange right here. You clean it real good with a wire brush and some carb cleaner, brake clean, whatever. Dry it off, and then take some paint. You can use liquid paper, touch-up paint. This is some craft paint that my wife had. Paint a mark. It's a reference mark on that's the shaft of your pinion gear that nut is on. So paint a mark on that, a mark on the nut, a mark on the flange. Because when we get it put back together, it has to look just like this. And you have to get the nut focus. Come on, you can do it. Anyway, it's not gonna do it. There you go. See how many threads are showing? All right. We got to get that nut in that exact same spot, at least as much as we possibly can. So what do you count those threads there? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 and a beginning of 5, maybe. So I'm gonna let that paint dry for just a minute. I'm gonna get my impact and I'm gonna bust that off, pull the flange off, and it'll expose the seal, which is what's leaking. See them nice drips forming right there? There's a seal back there, and once I get this flange off, I'll bring it back in here and show you. All right, you're going to need a puller to get this flange off. See, our paint mark is still there. I used a 3-jaw puller, gear puller, to get this off. When you get it off, this little plastic, it's kind of a protector, I guess. It's snapped on there, like that. And then your seal, which is still in the differential, it's, this part slides into the seal. You can see a little shiny ring all the way around it. That's where the seal's been riding. What I would recommend you do is pop this plastic piece off, clean it up, rag, whatever. This right here, hit it with a 1500 grit, 2000 grit sandpaper. Get it back nice and really smooth. Because I run my hand around it and I felt just a couple little really minor, what felt like rough spots. But anyway, get about a 1500, 2000 grit sandpaper. Run it around there a few times. Clean it off really good. And she is glass slick. So do that. Clean that up. Clean all the mess out from the inside of that. Put that back on here. And then we're going to go under there. And I'm going to use this. It's just a little chisel because it's got a sharper point on it. Screwdriver, works okay. But screwdriver's not sharp enough to kind of get under the lip of that seal to get it out. Then you're going to just tap it with a hammer and work it around and how you'd, normally get any other seal out. Before I go any further, I just want to show you what condition the rear end is in. Listen close. That's me just turning the pinion gear. That is a one more wore out rear end. That's how much slack is between the pinion gear and the ring gear. I can turn that thing about at least a quarter of an inch, maybe more, 5/16 of an inch. It's a wore out rear end, folks. Word of caution when you or before you pull that off, that flange off, get your drip pan under there, because you are going to lose some of your differential oil. So once we get all this done, we will have to you can kind of see it to the right of the differential right there. You kind of see the fill hole. Anyway, we'll have to retop this off. Okay, there's our old seal. Difficult to get out. One main reason is, there's staying a lot of room under there. I mean, I've got the car on jack stands about as high as I dare to go safely. What I found was an air chisel is really what you need, given the space. Don't set it up on like 120 or 140 or anything like that. Come on down on your pressures, about 60 or 80. All you need is to get around this lip. Now, if you do hit the trigger unintentionally, and you just give it all of it and it goes through like that, don't worry about it. That's why we're in here in the first place. We're going to replace this. So, air chisel makes it a whole lot easier. All right, the new seal is in. Couple things I do pretty much with every seal. Some seals you get on the outside of them, you'll see a little, it's like a little bead of sealer that's manufactured onto the seal. This one didn't have that, but pretty much anyway, I'll take a thin bead of RTV. Of course, this is the black, oil resistant, high temperature. I run around the inside flange of that seal, that's going to be sitting against the differential. Just a little added protection to help seal it off. And then on the inside rubber part of the seal, I'll take some light coating of grease, like wheel bearing grease. Don't use too much. You don't want to contaminate your differential oil. Of course, in this differential, I don't think it would matter. So yeah, light coating of grease on the inside rubber, thin bead of RTV on the outside lip of the seal, and place it in there as straight as you can. Start tapping around the edge with a hammer. I used my not a claw hammer or anything like that. It's a, I don't know how much it weighs. It's a little small. I call it a small sledgehammer. But anyway, tap around the edge of it as it pops up on one side. Hold the other side and tap that, and it'll start going down in there, and just tap around the edge until you get a good solid response back to it all the way around the edge there. So she's in now. Now we can put our flange back in, line the paint marks up. Then we can start our nut and tighten it only to where the paint marks line up. If you go, a 30-second or of a turn tighter, it's going to be okay. On this differential, we could go a half a turn tighter and it would still be fine because of the play that's in this wore out rear end. But anyway, the correct way to do it, get your paint marks lined back up exactly. All right, here we are all put back together. Everything's bolted up, paint marks lined up. Still got to do some cleaning up of the residue on the bottom there. We've got it topped off. So hope you enjoyed the video. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Give us a thumbs up if you liked it. Hit the notification bell so you can know when new videos are coming out. Have a good day. Be kind to one another.